Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new edition of Geek to Me Radio. Tonight, we are joined by the City of St. Charles special events producer, Ryan Cooper, talking about their upcoming Legends and Lanterns Festival. Then we'll be talking with Marcos Gabriel about his brand new horror movie, The Old Ways. All that and more, stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around in the greater St. Louis area tonight, hearing us on the big 550 KTRS, thank you very much for tuning in. For those of you streaming us, we're on Facebook Live, we're on Twitch, and we're on YouTube. Hello to you. And if you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast form, we appreciate your constantly tuning in and listening. And thank you for your support as well. Each week, if you've heard the show in the past, you've heard me talk about the premier sponsor, which is the City of St. Charles and the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. And you probably heard that little raise in my voice. Now that we're coming towards Halloween season, I'm getting a little more excited. Legends and Lanterns, I keep telling you about this festival. Well, no one knows more about the festival than the man who started it, the man who invented the whole thing. He didn't invent Halloween, but very close to it. Ryan Cooper, thanks for being in studio today.
Well, thank you, James, and it is an honor to be on the one and only Geek to Me Radio. Now, your producer did tell me not to turn off your audience by mentioning that Jar Jar Binks is my favorite Star Wars character.
There we go, folks. That's our time tonight. Thanks for tuning in. But that's okay. No, it's we welcome everyone, even if their opinion's sadly wrong. So, and you've even got the Jar Jar Binks head. We should just go ahead and go down this rabbit hole.
I do. Well, hey, I was 9 years old when episode 1 came out. He was kind of geared towards me, and yes, he is my favorite.
Yes.
I am unashamed at saying that.
I blame George Lucas's marketing campaign. I don't blame you.
I blame George Marcus as well.
Well, both of them should take the fall for this. I'm not sure what's going on with me tonight. I'm playing commercials I shouldn't play. I'm saying George Marcus instead of George Lucas. Doesn't matter. Talking about Legends and Lanterns, the festival. So for those of you who have heard the show before, you probably heard me kind of gloss over some of the details and say this is what it is. But Ryan's the person to really get into the meat of it. So talk a little bit about, for those who maybe attended the past years, what's different this year? Because obviously we come out of COVID.
Sure.
Luckily, we still had Legends and Lanterns. It was done very well. But things will be a little different this year. So talk a little bit about transitioning out of 2020 into 2021.
Right. So Legends and Lanterns, for those who haven't been there, is sort of in a nutshell this kind of, we call it a spirited journey through Halloween history. So we have all kinds of famous villains from real life history and from literature and folklore, as well as all kinds of special Halloween events that take place along historic Main Street in St. Charles. And last year we did have a modified season. We were glad to be able to have it, but we wanted to keep everybody safe. So we had socially distanced enclosures, and we had masks, and we had some events that we had to pause for a year. But this year we are still keeping safety in mind, but we're looking forward to having an event that looks more similar to pre-pandemic times. A lot of our safety measures are taking place behind the scenes to keep everyone who participates in the event safe. But luckily it is an all-outdoor event, so we're hoping that everyone who comes to it will be mindful of social distancing and being safe, and hoping to have a very happy Halloween season.
And that's another thing I always try to stress when I'm doing the live reads for it, is that people think, it's a Halloween thing, is adult-oriented, and it's not. It's family-friendly.
Well, and that's the tricky thing with Halloween because, as you know, there are many different flavors of Halloween events. You have, haunted houses with, body parts and spooky stuff. Then you have kind of, child, very, very young kid-friendly events. You have events that are, very candy-focused and trick-or-treat focused. Legends and Lanterns, and I know I'm biased when I say this, is an event that really kind of charts its own path. It is a historical event, but it's not dry. And it is something that literally everyone can find something to enjoy. If you have a 4-year-old, they're going to find stuff about this festival they're going to love. If you have a 14-year-old, and we all know how sometimes it's very difficult to appeal to the middle schoolers, they're going to find something to love. 94-year-old grandma's going to love something. And it's really exciting. And my favorite thing, and I've heard this a lot, is we have a lot of people who give us feedback and send us notes and say, I never was a Halloween fan. I went to your event, and now I have a reason to be excited around Halloween. Now I get it. And we've even converted some people to being super big Halloween fans. So it is special in all the different events that we have. It's just different, and historic Main Street in itself. I mean, it's the perfect setting that when you're doing something like this and you're walking on those old bricks and you're surrounded by 19th century buildings and you see Ichabod Crane in the corner and he's getting startled by the hooves of a horse that's going by on a horse-drawn hay wagon, you're there. You are living the story, and that's all Legends and Lanterns is about. It's in the title. Legends, we like to tell stories, and people get to really, really live those stories on Main Street.
And one of the big things, too, is this is a free thing. It's not like people are going to come down and have to shell out to visit or anything like that. There's the haunted hay rides. There's the tours.
Well, now that you're opening that Pandora's box, let's talk. And again, as you mentioned, it is completely free. And that is something that's very important to us that, people can come down. There's not that expectation. We hope that they'll, go into the shops and patronize the restaurants and whatnot. But the event itself doesn't cost a cent. You have over 36 different legends of Halloween, we call them. So you have famous people from history like Abigail Williams of the Salem witchcraft trial fame. You have, Edgar Allan Poe and the Brothers Grimm who are there. You have famous characters from fairy tales. You have the Big Bad Wolf. You have the Gingerbread Witch from Hansel and Gretel. You have the Phantom of the Opera. We have musical groups. We have the Angry Villagers. You're sporting their wonderful T-shirt today.
Those of you who are driving down Highway 70, if you look to your left, you'll see my shirt. There you go. Thank you.
There we go. So, what's a good monster story without that kind of proverbial horde of people with pitchforks and stakes and cloves of garlic and torches, and our musical mob sings as they try to rid Main Street of monsters. So you have all these different characters, but then we want to share the history of it. So we have a Victorian mourning museum, so you can learn about how people in the 19th century, when people passed away, they did some weird things. And we have over 70 authentic artifacts. We have wreaths made out of human hair. We have
these aren't for sale, by the way.
They're not for sale, but I got them online. There are a lot of interesting people who want to sell a lot of weird stuff, and Legends and Lanterns is happy to get it. But we have a tear vial that was sold at the 1904 World's Fair because Victorians used to collect their tears in vials. So we have that. We have a celebration of old time movies. I know you're a huge movie buff. We have a thing called Tinseltown Terror, so people can kind of go into the old train depot. It's kind of converted into an old time movie house, and people will watch clips of those really cheesy sci-fi B movies of the 1930s to the 1950s, because there was just something very nostalgic about that. So people get to watch clips of that. We have a horse-drawn hayride, so you can take in the sights and sounds of the festival, and again, for free. And this year, we're starting something new that's called the Haunted History Trail, which is very exciting, where people can walk themselves through Main Street. There'll be different signs with little QR codes, and they'll pull up a video and audio tour that will tell them about something interesting that happened in that location. All those little juicy tidbits you don't read about in the guidebooks.
And it's one of the things you guys have really done a great job of is the sensory-friendly stuff.
Yes.
That's also very important because there's a lot of people, obviously, who come down and they, whatever their reason, they might be leery of participating in something if they're overwhelmed by crowds. But you guys, the City of St. Charles, and you particularly, have taken a very careful look at how can we accommodate those folks. So talk a little bit about that if you could.
Absolutely. We want to make this event and all of our events as accessible as possible to anyone who wants to enjoy them. And the tricky thing is, on a ordinary festival day, it can be very hard for people. There are days that the streets get a little crowded and they're a little bit narrower. You know, it's a 19th century Main Street. And, you know, people who may have mobility concerns, those kind of uneven, you know, stones in the ground are no help as well. So we said, how can we present what we call a sensory-friendly experience, emphasis on the eerie, to kind of help make it more comfortable for people to still get that Halloween magic feeling, still get the quality of what we present during normal festival hours, but in a way that's more comfortable to them. So on Sundays during the festival, about 2 hours before we open to the public, we have a special event on the deck of the Katy Depot where we'll have a select handful of our characters who have all been trained to kind of modify their performance to be a little bit more approachable to people who may be, you know, a little bit nervous. You're seeing these very boisterous characters who none of which are scary, but some have very big personalities. So they learn how to kind of, you know, gauge their audience and kind of bring it on back, be a little bit quieter, be a little bit smaller, so that everyone can enjoy it. And then on those days as well, we'll have the Katy Depot open, so all of our attractions will have modified lighting and sound, so it's not quite as in your face, so that people can enjoy it at their own pace.
And we've got a couple of comments came in on the text. I'm just looking. Someone, Robert Jones, said it's cool. Trust me. And then I'm trying to make out some of
Robert Jones.
The old-timey movie house does sound quite appealing, David DeRose says. Emily Stowe says the opinion stated by guest on Phantom Menace does not reflect opinion. Okay, so she's disavowing, Emily is disavowing your Jar Jar Binks comment from earlier, I think. So that's what that about. I'm seeing some of the comments coming now. I just apologize. I'm just now seeing them. Bill Blanky says, Brothers Grimm. So everyone has their favorite characters. But that's so interesting, too. One of the things I should have you talk about is just like Jack Skellington has to reinvent Halloween each year.
Yes.
You have to add new things. You don't want to be the same old, same old. So some of the, like one of the big characters that were hit last year were the Martian ambassadors, were brand new. So who are some new characters, new faces we might see in 2021?
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, the Martian ambassadors debuted last year, and they were sort of our homage to those 1950s really cheesy Martian movies with the big heads and everything and their kind of weird ways of talking. So they will be here again this year. And new characters, we actually have Cinderella's wicked stepsisters, Lucretia and Griselda, and I saw them yesterday. You know, they're looking, you know, looking to crash any bar mitzvah or board meeting that they can to find their prince or their king or their barista, as they say. They're very flexible.
That's good.
These
That's
days.
good.
So we have the Wicked Stepsisters, and as I mentioned, we have our haunted history trail. Did a lot of digging, you know, no pun intended, to unearth a few interesting facts about Main Street. You know, in the off season, we learned that there's a space on Main Street that Washington Irving, who wrote The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, he spent a night on historic Main Street. Edgar Allan Poe mentions a building on Main Street in one of his lesser-known stories. So it's not in The Raven, but it's in the Journal of Julius Rodman. You know, that
I've got that one. I've got a second edition.
Edgar Allan Poe hit. So, you know, little facts like that you can learn. And we have a new thing called the Warbling Gourds. We have a trio of singing jack-o'-lanterns who, you know, vocalizing vegetables. They're a big hit this year, mark my words, so everyone can go see them, in addition to all of our other exciting things. And the neat thing is, because I'm sure all your wonderful guests are wondering, how am I going to know what's going on? Main Street's a big place. One of the cool things we have had since the beginning, when we opened in 2016, is a little keepsake for people to take is our festival passport. So people will come. It is a magazine quality booklet. It talks about all the different events that are there to experience, and it has a full color photo and biography of every Legends and Lanterns character. So not only do you get to meet the character on the street, you can take this passport home. You can read a little bit more about who these people are, because there are going to be names that you are familiar with. There are going to be characters that you don't know. And again, the passport is completely free. So it's a nice little keepsake souvenir of your time on Main Street during Halloween.
Just one more thing to enjoy about the festival. We're going to take a very short commercial break here. We're going to come back and chat more with Ryan all about Legends and Lanterns. If you're listening, what I always tell you to make sure you check out the website, which is discoverstcharles.com, Discover St. Charles, and it will have information there about the festival too. If you are just tuning in, we're talking to Ryan Cooper all about Legends and Lanterns, and we will be right back.
Hi, this is Barry Bostwick, and damn it, Janet, would you just keep listening and come back to Geek to Me Radio, will you?
I've one thing to say, and that's damn it, Janet, I love you. The road was long, but I
Welcome back to Geek to Me Radio.
There's a fire in my heart, and you fan it.
Want to make sure we tell you about our premier movie sponsor, and that is Marcus Theaters, Marcus Theaters and Movie Tavern. If you go to the website, marcustheaters.com, you can find out how to apply for their magical movie reward. So if you like going to see the movies, you should sign up for this because it actually gives you points for every movie ticket you get, every snow cap you buy, every popcorn kernel you chew. Not every one you chew, but exaggeratory. But you get points for getting concessions and seeing movies that you can then redeem for seeing more movies. And it's this whole wonderful circular popcorn-encrusted movie experience. And I know some people are a little hesitant still. They kind of, especially with stuff coming out on streaming as quickly as it comes. But I think Black Widow fixed that, didn't she? You know what I'm saying? But with that being the case, whatever sound system or movie screen you've got at home is not going to compare to the big screen. We saw No Time to Die in IMAX. That's something you can't recreate at home. And these movies are best seen in the best possible surrounding, which is at Marcus Theaters and Movie Tavern. So if you go to the website, marcustheaters.com, you'll find the location of the Marcus Theaters or the Movie Tavern closest to you. You can see movie reviews. And if you want, for a special occasion that might be coming up, a bachelor party or just a birthday party, you can rent a private theater. Marcus Theaters will do a private theater for you. You pick the movie you want, 20 of your friends. You can add popcorn and concessions to it if you want as well. But it starts at $99 depending on your location, and you get to watch a movie with 20 of your friends in your own very own private theater. We've done it a couple times. Ryan was in one of ours where we saw Wrath of Man.
Yes.
And it's a great time. So one of the things I missed during the pandemic was movies. The fact that movie theaters are back and we don't want them to go anywhere. If you are feeling comfortable doing it, get out and do it. Marcus has gone above and beyond with sanitation and cleanliness, and they've got the little quick pedals on the door so you can open the door without touching anything. Download the Marcus Theaters app for your smartphone. You can even order your concessions ahead of time so they're ready and waiting for you for an even more contactless experience. It's never a bad time to see a movie, in my opinion, and the best place to do it is Marcus Theaters. Marcus Theaters and Movie Tavern, as we always say, it's the best movie-going experience in the galaxy. As we're talking to Ryan Cooper, special events producer for the city of St. Charles, talking about Legends and Lanterns. We've talked about before, I love Halloween. One of my very favorite cities in the entire continental United States is Nolens, Louisiana.
Nolens, yes.
And Legends and Lanterns is bringing a bit of that Creole flair to the event this year.
We are. So one thing I've wanted to do since the second year of Legends and Lanterns was a masquerade ball. And for one reason or another, we just kind of weren't able to make it happen. But this year, on October 29th at the beautiful Foundry Arts Center in the Historic District, we are going to have the Bayou Bash, which is a Legends and Lanterns masquerade ball. And we're very excited to have it. We're going to have all of our Legends and Lanterns characters in their masquerade finery. People are going to be able to sip on themed libations. There are going to be different activities and complimentary face painting and a costume contest. So those who love Comic-Cons and whatnot come for a chance to win big if they think that they're the life or the afterlife of the party. But no, we're very excited about it. We're going to transform the whole space in, kind of the marshy deltas of Louisiana and kind of capture that magic. We've got two great co-hosts. We've got Baron Samedi of Haitian voodoo culture, and then we've got Marie Laveau, the New Orleans voodoo queen, who are going to be co-hosting the event. And then we've got some pretty rockin' music. We've got Miss Jubilee and the Yes Yes Boys, who are going to provide the evening soundtrack. So I'm very excited about it, and anyone who wants to get tickets to that, we would love to see you. They can find those tickets at legendsandlanterns.com.
And if you're like me, if you've experienced Halloween in New Orleans, it's one of those events that this is the perfect thing for you to attend if you're in the greater St. Louis, St. Charles area. to come to this. And again, that's a ticketed event. So we mentioned the thing's free, but this particular event is an additional cost, which is still with the libations and all the stuff you have going on inside. It's well worth it.
And we've got multiple packages. We have a VIP package and we have a general admission package. It is 21 and up, so there's a little bit of fun to be had at this event, safely, of course. But we're excited about it. But yes, we've got all of our free stuff during the regular festival. But for those who are looking for a little something extra special, October 29th, mark it on your calendar, Foundry Arts Center.
And the tickets can be purchased through the St. Charles, the CVB's website, discoverstcharles.com as well, or is there a different website to go?
Absolutely, they can go and discover St. Charles, but legendsandlanterns.com will get you right to the link you need.
And if they're hanging out in the St. Charles area, let's say I want to go pick up my tickets physically, they can go to the Convention and Visitors Bureau, or is it just online only?
230, trust me, come to the Visitor Center. We'll take care of you no matter what. 230 South Main Street. Enjoy a nice lunch on Main Street. Come by, purchase your Bayou Bash tickets, and yeah.
Yeah, and Marie Laveau is rising out of the graves of St. Louis Cemetery in New Orleans to come and co-host this.
She is great. She is great.
And there's no better hosts than her and the Baron.
It's
true.
Get
that Creole flair going.
It is true.
So with the special event this year and then all the other stuff, that's a lot to undertake when you're running an entire festival like this. See what I did? Undertake. trying to get my digs in where I can.
Oh.
But that was for you, Bill Blanky, if you're still watching. I know you like a good pun every now and then. It's a lot to moving parts to kind of oversee. So is this one of those things, again, I'm going to go back to a Jack Skellington reference, where the day after Halloween, you're starting on what you're going to do for next year?
It's true. We had someone who like a few weeks ago on like September 15th is like, oh my goodness, you're already getting ready for Halloween? And it's like, oh. And that's a good thing. I'm glad when things seem as seamless as they do, that people don't understand the amount of work that goes into it, because it is certainly not all me. The Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau, our producers are incredible. They have a whole team of people who help make this event happen. I've got a great staff who make everything happen as well. But it is. We have ideas constantly. We have little scraps of paper and little napkins that we're constantly, whenever we're inspired, when we're out and about with an event or something new that we can add or a new character, we scribble it down, and we meet throughout the off season. And March is really when we sort of kind of put our nose to the grindstone and we start figuring out what the next season's going to look like. So it really is Halloween all year round. And since it is my favorite holiday, it's a happy, happy place to be.
And we got some more comments came in on, looks like from Facebook. Jane Johnson said, so proud of Ryan and what his little ideas become.
Oh, thanks, Jane.
Catherine Levin wants to know if she can get T-shirts at the CVS. So if you're watching this, the Angry Villagers T-shirt I've got with the World Tour titles on the back, it's really cool. You do a new one every year. These can be gotten at the CVB.
Exactly. Yeah? So you can get those at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, 230 South Main, or they're actually available online as well. So discoverstcharles.com. We have all kinds of shirts. We have one with the Plague Doctor on it. We have Medusa, the Big Bad Wolf. The Angry Villager shirt, as you mentioned, has the tour cities. So Salem, Massachusetts, and Sleepy Hollow, New York.
Roswell. That's great.
Roswell, New Mexico. It's really a pretty stunning shirt. So yeah, people can get those shirts on discoverstcharles.com. Also get shirts for our Christmas festival, Christmas traditions as well, which is right around the corner.
Which seems kind of scary that's coming up so quickly. That's true. And with all the festival work, so this is your full-time job. So this is something that you're going to be planning Christmas right after. I'm assuming you're already planning Christmas coming
right.
in.
It's a weird space to be in where I have to constantly put on the Halloween hat and the Christmas hat, Halloween hat, the Christmas hat, because you have to juggle it, because once we close Legends and Lanterns, we only have 4 weeks until St. Charles Christmas Traditions opens up. So you kind of have to be able to juggle in this position, but that's fun. Christmas and Halloween, they make a beautiful match.
And when it doesn't sound like it detracts from your enjoyment, because you talked about this being your favorite holiday. Yes. Sometimes if it's your job, you can kind of lose a little bit of the luster, but it doesn't sound like that's happened.
There's never a day that I come in and I'm upset that I have to go to work, because you get to play and use your imagination and create these incredible people for things to incredible things for people. Well, we create people too, it's a very Frankenstein thing.
Ask Igor.
But create these wonderful things for people to enjoy, and it's really exciting. I'm very lucky.
And again, if you're listening right now and you want to find out more, the website's the best place to go, which is, again, discoverstcharles.com, discoverstcharles.com. There's the little events tab. There's actually a special thing just for Legends and Lanterns. We'll tell you all about it. Or as Ryan said, if you're out there enjoying the gorgeous scenery, St. Charles in this lovely fall weather. Pop in the Visitors Bureau office there at 230. You think I'd know after all these years. 230 South Main. And ask them for more information. Get your tickets for the Bayou Bash or whatever else. Before I let you go, let's ask you, what are your top 5 favorite horror movies?
So here's the interesting thing. So I am a chicken, though I love Halloween. But I will say I love Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. Mm-hmm. I love Evil Dead 2. I love Evil Dead 1 as well. There's a great musical about it.
I heard.
I love The Blob, starring Steve McQueen and a cast of exciting young people. And I know it doesn't count, but I'm going to say Young Frankenstein.
It counts. It's a horror movie, but it's a Halloween-themed movie.
Yeah.
And it's got Frankenstein in the title.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll allow it. So there you go. Again, make sure you check out the festival because it really is a lot of fun. It's Legends and Lanterns, and it takes place the middle 3 weekends of October.
Yes. So we open October 9th, and we'll be taking place October 9th and 10th, the 16th, 17th, 22, 23, and 24.
So mark those in your calendars. Bring the little ones out and interact with all the fun people you'll get to see out there. We're going to take our next commercial break. Ryan Cooper, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure to talk to you as always.
My pleasure, James. Thank you. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. There he goes. We're going to take our next commercial break. We'll come right back after this. Please stand by.
Hi everybody, this is James Masters with a sexy fake British accent. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Trying to keep the return liners Halloween themed since we're talking about all things Halloween. Thanks again to my first guest, Ryan Cooper from Legends and Lanterns, all about talking about that incredible festival. Right now, we're going to go to my next guest who's on the line, talking about a brand new movie that's out October 12th, getting us up for the scary season. This movie, The Old Ways. We've got writer Marcos Gabriel. How are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you. What an introduction. Love it.
Great. Were you a Buffy fan?
Was I a Buffy fan? Oh, yeah, big time, of course. The original and the TV series.
Percy.
I love Christy Swanson and Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah, there's no bad Buffy out there in my opinion, so that's awesome to hear. I saw the trailer for this movie, and it's one of those trailers that you immediately kind of start clenching in a little bit, and you kind of get those little chills up the back of your neck. Talk a little bit about writing this movie, The Old Ways. Talk a little bit about the idea, the genesis, how the germ formed in your head.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I was looking to tell an exorcism story from just a different point of view, and I knew a very exciting point of view would be if we just leaned into some of my Latino culture and heritage. I was born in Puerto Rico, and I knew I wanted to tell a story with a bruja, which is Spanish for witch, and figure out how we could freshen up the exorcism genre by kind of attacking it in a different way and not doing all the standard stuff you're used to seeing with a priest comes in with an order from the Vatican and the Bible and Power of Christ compels you and all that stuff. So we kind of left all that at the door and tried to dig in deep and see what else we could discover in our movie, The Old Ways.
And the horror movie genre is one of those things where it obviously this time of year, it's a great time to see a horror movie, but It's one of those things year round. Like you get them coming out in February, you get some of them in like even around Christmas time. I don't think there's ever a bad time, in my opinion, to see a horror movie. And the one thing is, horror movies always do well at the box office, which is, I think, just we like being scared. And the fact that this has, like you mentioned, a bit of a history behind it, makes it feel more real in a sense. So talk a little bit about how you were inspired to do a horror movie.
Oh, I'm like you. Any time of the year is great for a horror movie. I grew up loving horror movies, fascinated with them. I mean, I was more of an 80s kid, so I grew up with, Jason and Freddy and Pinhead and everybody. And I just love the whole the ride of a horror movie. I mean, I love being thrilled. And there's no other genre in my book where you are so engaged with the screen and the story being told. So when you're in a horror movie and watching one, you ignore everything else around you and you're just focused in on whatever you're seeing or whatever you're trying to avoid seeing on the screen. So I've always loved that as an experience for myself, and then just in developing the movie was really excited to see how many different types of things we could explore within the movie. So there's a real story of culture and connection going on here in the old ways, but at the same time, there's body horror and there's visceral horror and there's gross things and all that. So it was really everything we could dream up and put into a movie is all on screen.
But the fact that it's the way you just said that, it sounds like, oh, we threw a bunch of stuff in, but it fits so well. Like there's snakes in it, but there's a reason the snakes are there. It just seems like everything is so seamlessly worked in, and it just because of, like you said, the heritage behind it, and obviously you brought your knowledge of that to it. It's such it sounds weird to say, but it's a beautifully done horror movie, if that makes sense.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, no, that's definitely what we were striving to do. I mean, for our cast didn't even really acknowledge the horror elements when they signed on to do the movie. For all of them, and I talked to them all before they started, they all viewed this really as a drama and a story about somebody who's lost their connection with their ancestral homeland and is reconnecting with that experience, but told through the lens of kind of the darkness that's there. And the amazing thing about horror movies, has always been, but especially today, is you can really say a lot of things in a horror movie about, the human condition, about society, about all of those things. So it's not enough anymore for audiences, especially now, to just be scary and have, throw everything at them from the scare perspective. You really have to dig deep and try to find a real story underneath it all. So that was the fun thing, unearthing that, but at the same time, just all the rest of the experience of making a movie for all the geeks out there listening to Geek to Me Radio. Geek to Me Radio, it's like that is the ultimate filmmaking to me, is a scary movie. I mean, it's just operating on all cylinders and doing all the things that movies do best.
And it's funny, too, because we've talked to other directors and writers, and they've all said, even if they haven't had the chance to, I really want to do a horror movie. It's just that visceral thing, I think, that we all have within us, that we want to tell a story that both kind of thrills us and also frightens other people. There's just something about us that kind of wants to share that experience.
Yeah, and it's really, for the genre, it's really one of the only genres where you don't need a huge star to kind of make it a great movie. You can, as long as you've put together the elements correctly, then the audience is really forgiving, because the star is the experience. The star is the horror of it. So for filmmakers, both who have been doing it for a long time or just starting out, it's always a genre that, to me, is really appealing, because if you can do it right, it doesn't matter. People will be along for the ride.
Absolutely. And as a writer, too, I'm curious, how long from, this is the idea, to I'm writing this, to obviously Dark Star Pictures is behind it. How long has this been? Has this been a quick 2-year process? Was it something you started during COVID and then it's out? Or how long is the process from when you started writing it to now that it's coming out on October 12th?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. The first draft was probably in 2019, early 2019. And it was really, I worked really closely with the director. We've been friends for years and years, Christopher Allender. And I really wrote the first 20 pages super quickly to just show him, because I wanted a project that we could do together. And he read the first 20 pages and he was like, this seems really, really cool. I definitely want to do it. Let's keep, writing and going. So I wrote the draft as fast as I could, and then just kept revising it, digging into the research. Eventually we started production in 2020, and we finished production about 2 days before all the lockdowns happened.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Yeah, so that was fantastic that we had it all in the can. And then it was the post process throughout the pandemic, which we had to learn how to do that properly. But, it's every day's been a pleasure working on it. So, yeah, it was, it feels like a longer journey, or it seems like a longer journey than it felt, I should say. It felt like it all happened kind of quickly, but when you sit back and go, oh, hold on, it's 2021 now, and it's finally coming out. So I guess it does take a minute.
Yeah, yeah. And we should say it's on digital, Blu-ray, and DVD on October the 12th. You can check out the old ways. One of the things I was fascinated, one of your other credits is the Muppets Now that was on Disney+.
Oh, yeah.
So you go right from the Muppets to a horror movie, which kind of shows your range as a writer, certainly.
Listen, there's nothing more terrifying than the Muppets. They've got some stuff. Animals got some issues. Swedish Chef's got some issues.
Sweetums, yeah.
Yeah, it's the connective tissue is just, and for the director also, Chris Allender, he worked on Muppets episodes also directing them, and the connective tissue is really just like, we usually try to pursue whatever creative endeavors are exciting to us. So I know I'm not the only one who likes horror movies and also likes Muppets and also likes other things. So if I can find a way to get involved in those things, into those things that really excite me, then I jump at the chance.
Once again, as that 80s kid, you're getting to do horror and you're getting to play with the Muppets at the same time. That's got to be a thrill.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? Some of that stuff is not – I mean, look, when you get into making a movie, the Muppets are a special effects shoot the whole time, right? There's a magic that's happening that you're not seeing the performer. So those were really tools that we could use, even though they don't seem related. If you see the old ways, you'll be like, what the hell was this guy talking about? But some of those same tools of like, well, we know how to remove – wires and rods. We know, like, we created a little spoiler here, but there's a monster in the movie. We had a physical monster that could be puppeted and stuff like that. So we kind of took all those things that we learned and twisted them and took them to the dark side.
That's everyone loves to go to the dark side. That's fine. And I know I want to be cognizant of your time. I want to get you out of here, but I want to ask, your star of this is Andrea Cortez. Talk a little bit about casting her. Was she immediately you knew she was the one to play this role, or was it a bit of a casting process?
We have two amazing stars. Well, all our cast is amazing. We have Andrea, and then we also have Bridget Cali-Canellis.
Yes.
Who plays kind of our central reporter character. And for Andrea, it was a no-brainer. She came in and read, and she was great, and we cast her immediately. For Bridget's role, it was a little more intense because her role is the one who kind of goes through the rituals and these different trials, and really we needed someone who could be dramatic and also have a little bit of a sense of humor, but also go through very intense physical challenges throughout the movie. You mentioned snakes. Those are real snakes. They're not CG. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happens in this movie for an actor that is very intense. And it took us a while to find that person that embodied all of those traits at the same time. In fact, we pushed the movie twice trying to find that role. And then eventually we discovered her. She's fantastic. She's on Fear the Walking Dead right now. She's voice of, characters in Clone Wars for Star Wars. She's doing all sorts of cool stuff. So we were so lucky and extremely glad to find her.
And once again, Marcos Gabriel, the writer of The Old Ways, which you can get on digital, Blu-ray, and DVD October 12th. Where can people find you as far as social media handles and website if people want to keep up with you and your work?
You know what? I'm at Call Marcos, C-A-L-L, Marcos, on pretty much everything. And The Old Ways movie is the handle for everything Old Ways. And, yeah, super excited for your audience and others to discover this Blu-ray. It's got over 2 hours of stuff on it. It's got all sorts of extended deleted scenes, storyboard comparisons, including like a 80 or 90-minute, I think it's 80-minute documentary behind the scenes on this movie. So if you like hearing this, if this has been an entertaining 10 minutes for you, there's tons more when that Blu-ray releases. So we're super excited about it.
And I always recommend you go out and get the physical thing because I love the behind the scenes and the director's commentary and the writer's commentary. That's the one thing I will always shell out the extra money to get the physical copy just for those purposes. Once again, you get the Blu-ray and the DVD October 12th. It's also on digital. The Old Ways, perfect in time for the Halloween season. Marcos Gabriel, I appreciate your time so much. Thanks for being on the air with us.
This has been a blast. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Be well.
All righty.
And we're going to take another quick commercial break. We will come right back talking more. We'll get in some movie reviews. And Ryan Cooper was nice enough to stick around, so we'll talk about the James Bond movie coming out because I know he's a huge James Bond fan as well. We'll get into all that and more. Stand by.
Hey guys, this is Raoul Coley and I play Dr. Ravi Chakrabarti on the CW's iZombie, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Yeah, I'm already dead. Yeah.
And if you had a chance to see Midnight Mass yet, Rahul Kohli's in that. A brilliant performance. It's always fun to see these people like we just had Rahul on twice, I guess. Joey, twice, I guess? Is that right? Yeah, when iZombie was out. That's a great series too, iZombie. I'm sorry that was canceled. It wasn't canceled. They went out on their own terms, but I'm sorry that it's not on anymore. But we got to see some movies. We were talking about Marcus Theaters earlier and got to see No Time to Die, the new James Bond movie that's out, and we got to see Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. And I know, Ryan, you're a James Bond fan now. I've converted you, or at least if I haven't, Dixie Denier did with her Bonds thing. Yes. So you're yeah. Oh yeah. If you want to, you don't have to. You don't have to. Hi. Ryan's still here with us. Did the new James Bond movie, just out of curiosity, because I've shown you a few. You've not seen all of them, but the new, as a kind of a person who's not a big Bond fan, who doesn't know all this stuff, seeing the previews, the trailer, everything, is one of those that kind of like, hey, I'd like to see this just as a general action movie?
It is very intriguing. I will say I always like the idea of James Bond. I think he's very suave, makes me very jealous. And this one, yes, I think Daniel Craig's very cool. I think the Rami Malek's very cool. And, there are booms, but, it's also thinking. And then there's martinis and cars.
That's our great movie play-by-play from Ryan Cooper. That's perfect. But no, the cars, I mean, that's one of the things when I was little and I used to watch, my dad watched James Bond movies and I'd watch them with him, and it was the cars. That's what drew me in. I'm like, oh, such a cool car, an Aston Martin or a Lotus Esprit or whatever. And so for the diehard Bond fans, I will say, this one is the 25th movie in the Bond franchise. And I think you and I only watched 2 of them together. We scratched the surface.
It was great. It was great. And the music in the movies, too. That's the thing that I'm amazed at. You mentioned Dixie Denier's, James Bond burlesque. Such great music.
Yeah, all the famous people, like back in the day, they had Shirley Bassey. And
Paul
they had
McCartney.
Paul McCartney and the Wings did it. And they had Sheena Easton did For Your Eyes Only. This one, Billie Eilish does the song for this one. But
awesome.
There's always a power behind the theme song, and that's one of the great things too. They do a little nod to On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was the 6th Bond film where he gets married. George Lazenby played James Bond.
They're doing a callback. You know what they need to do, and I hope the producers of the future James Bonds are Pierce Brosnan singing the next James Bond song.
I saw both Mamma Mia's. I don't know if that's a good idea.
James Bond. I don't know.
That almost sounded like
him.
Christopher Lloyd singing James Bond.
Hey, I appreciate Pierce Brosnan, and I hope he sees this because I enjoyed him in Mamma Mia. I have no taste, but I like him.
No, he's a great actor. Like there's now we're totally going down a Pierce Brosnan rabbit hole here. I didn't intended to, but The Foreigner with him and Jackie Chan. Pierce Brosnan's the bad guy. That was a great movie. If you're listening right now, I'd recommend that one if you're looking for something to watch after you see the old ones, which we just talked about in the last segment. But I'd say the one thing that is a little odd about the Daniel Craig movies as a whole is because, like you and I, we sat down because you had never seen a Bond movie. Mm-hmm. I had you over, we had pizza, and we watched GoldenEye.
Yes.
And what was the other one? Live and Let Die. You did not need to know anything about any of the other 20 movies to watch those two, and we watched them out of order.
Right.
The Daniel Craig Bond movies, you literally have to watch Casino Royale, then Quantum of Solace, then Skyfall, then Spectre to know what's going on, because there's a lot of context that's provided in No Time to Die in those first 4 movies. And that's unlike any James Bond thing before. You actually have to watch the other 5 movies.
That's tricky. But I guess smart for them, because then, hey, everyone gets to watch them if they want to know what's going on.
And they can sell a Daniel Craig box set when all this is through.
Yes, or they can provide a little synopsis. They should do like a little crawl, like before Star Wars.
That's right.
James Bond, here's what you need to know.
That'd be a good idea, too. And they could do that during the opening credits as Billie Eilish is singing, but they didn't. But no, I would say out of his 5 movies, this was not my favorite James Bond movie. But just if you're listening and you have any interest in my opinion, which you might not, I would say it's not his best movie, which is still, for me, Casino Royale, but it's not his worst movie, which is still Quantum of Solace. Out of the group. It's in the middle of the pack. It's above Spectre and it's above Quantum of Solace, but it's not as good as Casino Royale, and it might be on edge with Skyfall, depending on the movie. It was a decent movie. It wasn't bad. And I would also mention you should at least be familiar with On Her Majesty's Secret Service, because there are little nods to that movie throughout as well. So if you're listening right now, I'd give it a solid, I'd say 7.5 out of 10. And watch the other Craig movies before you see this one are my thoughts on that.
So it's the Jan Brady of the Daniel Craig James Bond.
That's well put. Thank
you.
because I'm all
That's a
about
more
Casino
pop
Royale, so it's more
culture
Marsha
reference,
for me.
You know.
So.
I know
about,
television.
Talking about the Brady Bunch movie, the original. No, we will. But the Venom versus Carnage. It's
that
the second
did
movie.
well, I hear.
I think it did $90 million for opening weekend, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, I think that was the right number. Joey, are you going to fact check me on that? Is that $90 million? Does that sound right? He didn't look it up. Normally he's like, no, that's wrong. He'll like glare at me from across the board.
Well, I was listening to another radio station this afternoon that I won't mention because it wasn't this one, but they were talking about how they went in with low expectations because they didn't know people were coming back to the movie theaters. They didn't know if it was going to do whatever, and then they said it just blew it out of the water. And I think that good for you.
Yeah, and Joey this is why he's the best, because he just pulls up Box Office Mojo on the screen. I can see right here, domestic take for the weekend, 90.1 million for opening weekend for Venom, which is great.
Wow.
International payday was 13.8 million, and worldwide gross was 103.9. 103, almost 104 million. So that's not a bad take for a sequel. See, I went in, it was exactly what I expected it would be, because I'm like, I wasn't huge on the first one. It was better than I thought it was going to be because my expectations were down here. Mm-hmm. But people who are comic book fans are going to like it. Mm-hmm. If Woody Harrelson was the two best things that make the movie worth seeing are Woody Harrelson, because he just chews the scenery. Mm-hmm. He loves playing this role. You can tell he's having a good time. And the post-credit scene, which anyone who knows Marvel movies since 2008, there's at least one post-credit scene. If you're listening and you're going to go see it, there's only one. It's midway through. So after that one scene is done, you can feel free to leave. You don't have to sit there and wait for the very, very last when you see produced by and Tom Hardy will be back in, and you don't have to worry about any of that. You can leave after the mid-credit scene. But it's those two things, Woody Harrelson and the post-credit scene, are the main reason to shell out the money and go see it.
And we celebrate all the people whose names are listed after that post-credit scene. You worked hard.
From best boy to key grip. That's right. What I say. That's all the people who make the movie work. But no, it's going to do well, obviously. We'll see how what the second weekend fall off is, because obviously Batman versus Superman took a huge nosedive after the second weekend. And I haven't really seen much as far as what the critics are saying. But the fans obviously like it. People are voting with their money, which, yay capitalism. Because that's the way things go. And hopefully, if you're listening, you saw it in a Marcus Theater. That's all I have to say, because that's the best way to see it. But yeah, I would recommend also seeing the James Bond movie in IMAX. I don't know if Venom is in 3D or not, if they're doing 3D showings, but with the CGI porn that was thrown in there, that's all it was. It was like a 90s movie with a bunch of modern day CGI stuff. And I gave it a 4.5. No, I gave it a 3.5 out of 10, because it was just.
Oh, so that's like the cousin from the Brady Bunch of the whole family. Yeah. Like, it's like Sam the Butcher from the Brady Bunch. That's Sam
what we're getting.
Butcher.
Yeah. Alice's little side. Yeah. We'll stop there. But yeah, and Joey's pulling up showtimes. He's so far ahead of me. Every time I'm thinking he's like Radar O'Reilly from MASH. Pop culture rep? No?
Yes.
You'd have no idea.
We're gonna make it after all.
That's Laverne and Shirley. Thank you for trying, though. That's great. So is there a movie, like we're talking about, it's the spooky season.
Yes.
But Halloween Kills is going to be out soon, the Michael Myers and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes.
Are there any movies that you've seen, like the previews for, that you're excited to get out and see?
Well, I saw the Progressive commercial with the Addams Family, too.
Yes.
That's intriguing.
Did you see the first one, the animated first one?
No.
It was really good.
Well, I love anything Addams Family. I love the musical. I mean, obviously the Raul Julia and Angelica Houston movies. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Those are well, and Christopher Lloyd
as cousin It. I mean, cousin.
Uncle Fester.
I'm getting daggers from Joey now. I don't know what my problem is, folks. I'm messing up on the board. I'm calling people by the wrong names. I'm lucky I actually showed up to the right studio tonight. That's all I have to say.
How many fingers am I holding up?
That's a finger?
Jazz hands.
Oh, I couldn't tell from over here. But if you're seeing this, you probably knew how many fingers. But no, you played Uncle Fester.
Yes.
Christopher Lloyd.
Yes.
Yes. But you gestured at me like I was.
Well, because you usually do such a good Christopher Lloyd.
Oh, great Scott!
Yes, you got to give the people what they want.
I think the people would like this to go away. That's
probably.
But no, but the first one, that's one I would highly recommend. If you've not seen the first Addams Family, that's one. Go out and rent it right now, because that animated show was really well done. There he goes. He's hopping in his car. He's driving away. But I'm excited for the second one because the first one was a lot of fun. It was well crafted. The voice actors were all great. When you think of the Addams Family, you just mentioned obviously the Angelica Houston, and did you watch the original TV series?
I did. And I was always amazed because, it often in like the old timey, TV Nick at Nights and stuff was kind of close by to the Munsters as well. And it was interesting to see how the Munsters and the Addams Family kind of cut from the same cloth, but two very different takes. One a little bit more campy, one a little bit more subtle. I loved it.
Did you have a preference yourself between Munsters and Addams Family?
It depended on the day, but I embrace all. So I wanted them all.
And we've got a couple more comments came in. We've got Emily Stowe said Addams Family Values is on her watch list.
Oh, it should be. It's
and
my favorite.
Jane Johnson said I pretty much always stay until the very, very end of the movie. So she's talking about the credits.
Well done, Jane.
The second assistant grip. So good. Thank you, Jane. That's great. We love that. And David DeRose was joking about staying to the end. He said Venom will return in Thunderball, which is a James Bond Venom mashup he did. That's very clever.
Well done.
So I like that as well. We're coming up. I'm trying to watch the clock because I'm getting everything else wrong tonight. I want to make sure I'm out on time here. For those of you who are listening right now, I'm just going to spill the beans. I'm going to hit the button here at 58:30. Just so you know, you'll hear the intro, you'll hear the outro music start, and we're wrapping things up. But this has been great. Ryan Cooper made it all the way into the station here at KTRS. It's always great to see you.
Well, it's great to be seen. Thank you.
And once again, Legends and Lanterns goes on the middle 3 weekends of October. You can get your tickets for the Bayou Bash on the website, which is, again, discoverstcharles.com. Want to make sure you check out part 2 of our 2-part talk with Tom DeFalco, legendary comics writer and editor who worked for Marvel Comics on a lot of great titles, including Spider-Man and Thor. I had the chance to sit down and talk with him for quite a while. And that second part will be on the website. Also, my movie reviews are up on the website, geektomeradio.com. So check those out as well. And thank you, as always, to Joey V for putting up the cool things, for making this show sound as good as it does, and for keeping me somewhat sane. Until next week, my friends.
It's not in the way you watch iZombie. It's not in the way you watch The Flash. It's not in the way you love Scotty Young Art. It's not in the way you play Mario Kart. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Mockingbird Lane. Good night.
Hey kids, are your parents about to buy you a shiny new toy from Amazon?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Well, don't be selfish. Share some of that money with us. Before going on Amazon, make sure to type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser. It will look just like Amazon.com, except it'll say referral Geek to Me Radio up top. And then when you check out, a tiny percentage will go to support the show without costing you 1 cent more. So before your parents get you that gizmo, gadget, or widget, make sure they type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser.
Bit.ly/geek to me. Bit.ly/geek to me.